So hello good people of the internet, this is Tommy Kelly, and in this video, in our continuing series on the 47s, the complete 47s course, today we're going to talk about divination and what it is and some kind of examples, some different examples of how you can use divination. And I don't want to get too bogged down in a real technical term or a real kind of, a real definition of what divination is, because you could spend forever doing that. And I think most people have a kind of an idea of what divination is. Maybe not the word as much, but if you say like fortune telling or predicting the future or, like seeing or something like that, like everyone kind of has a vague kind of notion of what that is. And I think one of the better ways to look at it is that divination is doing something to get knowledge that you don't have through some sort of supernatural, for want of a better term, means. So it's not kind of like getting information you don't know by asking someone or by reading a book or by, actually going and seeing it or something. It's trying to get this information through some sort of supernatural means. I don't know what a better word would be, but I don't particularly like supernatural. Maybe supernatural in the sense of supernatural, two words, or supernormal or whatever. So it's kind of like you would be, and it's not, so it's not always just going to be about the future either. It's about information, maybe like what is your lover up to? What is your, currently right now, you just don't have access to that information, and you're trying to find that through some sort of means. So it's not just about what's happening in the future. And I suppose then, if it is kind of through some if it is kind of through some supernatural means, what is this means, and what is the agency, and how does it work? And I don't know, and I'm certainly sure that anyone who says they do know don't really know. It's like your best guess. Like, you have the idea that time doesn't exist and everything happens at once, so that in some way, using these techniques, we can tap into seeing things from outside of time. There's also the Theosophist idea of the Akashic Records, where there's a record of everything that happens or everything that will happen, and by using divination or tapping into this kind of resource. There's also the thing to consider in that is then about destiny and fate, and is everything written? Is what's going to happen always going to be happening? Is there nothing we can do to change it? And if our lives are predestined, then you could probably go, well, we could probably maybe look at that. But, most people or some people don't like the idea of predestination, because it means, because we see it kind of in a negative sense, that we're predestined to probably suffer a bit more. Like, we very rarely would say, we're predestined to have, the most awesome life and stuff like that. So I don't think people really like that. Well, I certainly don't like the idea of not being able to change things. And so I think I don't certainly know how these things work, how divination works, but it certainly does work, and at times, like all things, like magic as well, works for me about 60% of the time, and that seems a good figure that I've heard other people talk about as well. Divination, there's definitely a skill to it. There's some people who are really good at it and some people who are less good at it. I'm okay at it. I'm not brilliant at it, and there are certainly people who are much better at it than I am. I'm not great at it for myself either, and I don't think most people are, because even if you get the answers, you're not going to see them, you're going to see what you want to see a lot of the time. So divination is probably best for doing it for other people, but of course, if you can do it for yourself, so it's no rule, and I do it for myself a lot too. So it's not that I discount it altogether, just with the caveat that it's very hard to do your own. In the same way you can't see your own problems as easy as you can see other people's problems, you can't see your own solutions as easy as you can see other people's solutions, because you're too close to them and that kind of thing. So what is divination? Getting information about events present or previous or in the past by means that could be described as supernatural or spooky or woo-woo. So Now I'm going to go through just a couple of different kind of things that how you do divination, or different systems of divination. The very first one I came across was reading tea leaves. Now I don't know if this is just an Irish thing or an old thing, and it's certainly not going to happen much anymore because no one really uses tea leaves. I'm sure hipsters do, but I don't know any hipsters. So it seems like something they would do. But so the tea leaves, before tea bags, people actually put the tea leaves into the tea, and it was done like an instant coffee, only the tea leaves didn't dissolve in the way an instant coffee would. So by the time you got to the end of your cup of tea, your tea leaves would be at the bottom, and you would drain the cup, and these would make shapes, and people would look at them and predict your future and see what would happen. My granny on my father's side used to do it, and in a jokey way, not in any serious way. She used to do it mostly to slag people off and have a bit of crack with them and have a bit of a laugh, and sometimes make points that she obviously wanted to make. But so that was probably the first one I came across. Of course, the other one, the very simple, the most simple one, is the yes or a no, the coin. So heads or tails, where you go. I will go. I have to go, and then you do best out of three when you don't get the answer you want. A good thing I learned about that coin cost one, if you have to make a decision and you don't know which way to go, which is the proper way to go, is flip the coin in the air. While it's in the air, see which side you want it to come down on. And that tells you where your heart actually lies. And then just forget about the coin cost and just go with the way you want it, because that's actually what you want to do. So we have tea leaves, we have coins. The other one, and I got this today just for this video, is that a lot of people would be. So this is a magic 8-ball unboxing, and I assume most of you know this. So it's like a pool ball, 8-ball, but it has this window, and you shake it and you ask it a question, and you go, "What question will I ask? Will someone who is watching this right now, or in the future, will they get a pleasant surprise?" This magic 8-ball is not particularly good because nothing's come off me. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. And the magic 8-ball says it doesn't know. So the idea with the 8-ball, it's more of a gimmick thing, but it can be still, it's as effective as any of them. Is you ask a question, and then for sure was this one, you get the thing. They're kind of cool, and they're the other ones you can use is like the online yes/no generator. If you ask a question, it just says yes or no. But I'm going to go on to tarot cards. And when you read with cards, it's called cartomancy because they couldn't think of a more interesting name, obviously. And this is my BOTA cards. These were bought for me by Jeremy, who is a mod on the 47's Facebook group. So the idea with these, like playing cards, is that you would shuffle them, ask a question, and then you get your answers via, what cards you've laid out. And you would go for simple yes or no. You can go for something more intricate where you would lay out and a card would represent different things. So like the first card would be the past, the second card would be the present. Forces that work against you, forces that work, for you. The immediate outcome, blah, 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 and the major outcome, or whatever, whatever it is, or you could have it as different ones where my favorite cartomancy one is 3-card one, where depending on what I'm doing would be past, present, future of the problem, or the middle one, current, where you are, influences from the past, and what's, the next influences that are going to come in. And so that's the BOT cards. The BOT or BOTA, they don't like being called BOTA, but it's on you. The major arcana, the tarot cards are split into two things, the minor arcana and the major arcana. So kind of like the suit cards of playing cards and the non-suit cards, whatever, the standard cards. But it's not quite that. The major arcana of the BOTA cards are wonderful and like really, really nice. Great drawings and all that. But the minor are, they're pretty boring. They're literally just like, 5 wands. But yeah, good. Now the other ones I have here are the ones that most people will know, which is the Rider-Waite Smith deck. And these are the images that are, most commonly known for the tarot cards. And these are really nice. And the artwork is good, but the print of the ones I have probably aren't great. It's the colorings, but the actual printing of it. There is an updated, recolored of them that I must get at some point. But yeah, they're nice too. And these are Aleister Crowley, the Thoth cards, the Thoth deck. Now, these are some really interesting pictures and images that go with them. I find this a very negative deck. I've heard other people talk the same. It's very harsh. It's will always err on the negative side, or the harsher side, or the darker side. And it's a deck I don't particularly like because of that, because it seems to see the worst of every situation. Which is fair enough if that's what you're looking for, but there's a big caveat that I have to say with all of divination. And a big thing that you should always bear in mind is that it's not written in stone. And one of the main things why I don't like divination, for, just not beat around the bush, is that there was one time I went to a fortune teller and she was exceptional. And she knew names of people who had died, recently died. She knew names of my grandparents. She could tell me stuff that no one else knows, all those things. Now, so impressive she was a really good psychic, or like the best fraud I've ever come across, or whatever. So either way, I was quite impressed, by it. But there was one question I had in particular. It was a bit of a work thing. And she told me an answer I didn't want to hear. And it got me very annoyed and very depressed, very down, because I felt, well, that's it. There's no hope for that now, because she was so accurate with other things or whatever. And ultimately, the thing I wanted did happen in a kind of a way. And what she said would happen didn't happen. And I think you can get caught up too much in divination, and then, that if you don't get the answer you want, and then giving up. So I would suggest that think of it only ever, divination, as advice from a friend. It's not, that's the way I would look at it, as advice, not as in this is the definite thing, because it's not right all the time. It's not accurate. You might be seeing it right. Sometimes it doesn't reveal itself to what it really meant until years later, all of those things. So only, I would suggest, ever take it as advice, or just another side, or an alternative opinion, and don't see it as being set in stone, and don't see it as that if you don't get the answer you want, or indeed if you do get the answer you want, that it's a definite thing. The other thing is, it probably can only at best tell you what the likely outcome of something is based on up until the point of you doing that reading or getting that reading. But by you getting that reading, you've already started changing things, because your knowledge of it has changed. So therefore, from that point on, the future will change anyway. So that's why it becomes less and less accurate, which is why it's been suggested that you should only divinate for long. Is it longer? Magic for short term, divinate for long term. Yeah, so I'm not sure if I agree with that, because it's probably going to be more likely to be accurate at short term. Maybe I have the sentence wrong. I probably should have looked it up, but it's a Pete Carroll quote. So yeah, as soon as you've done the reading or got the reading, you're changing the future, if the world isn't predestined, by having this knowledge that you would now act upon differently and make different choices, knowing what you have now learned from that reading. So a reading probably can only be accurate up to the point of what is most likely to happen until you actually had that reading, and the reading will change it, if that makes sense. So divinate and see it as advice, and that's it. Don't take too much. The other one, and I won't open it, is the famous, the Wild Unknown Tarot even. That's a lovely hand-drawn deck. Really, really nice. Really, very popular, and worth your time. There's this other deck that's wonderful, it's probably the best deck in the world. Now, it's not a tarot deck, and that's the thing that I would just point out. 47th is an oracle deck. The tarot deck has a very specific, it's definite cards that have to be in a tarot deck for it to be a tarot deck. Whereas an oracle deck, it can, it can be its own monster. It doesn't have, like, this is 40 cards, and a tarot deck of 40 cards just isn't a tarot deck. Now, I want to get on to bibliomancy. Bibliomancy is probably my favorite form of divination. And they used to be very popular years ago in New Age circles and New Age books, where you get these books and be full of sayings, and it would be close your mind and you'd open it at a random page, and this would be, exactly the meaning or the answer you were looking for. And I had a few of them when I was younger, and enjoyed them. They're easy thing. You end up noticing you get the same type of answers a lot because of the way books are designed, that they will open on certain pages easier. But the bibliomancy it's mostly done with the Bible, and the biblio of the name isn't actually Bible. It's from, like, biblio as in meaning books, as in bibliothèque, as in library. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the Bible, but a lot of people do use it as the Bible. I use Tom Stoppard's Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead play because it has a lot of very short kind of sentences. It has a real attitude, and it's punchy, and it's good. And the divination I get from this, and it can be quite funny and quite smart-arsed and stuff. So let's ask a question, say, show how to do it. So we would go, is someone watching this going to have something really good happen to them in the next day or so? Whatever. So then you would hold that in things. So I'm thinking about you watching this, you there, and is something good going to happen to you in the next day or so? Think of that question. Then I kind of try to feel out what page. Oh, this page just feels right. Don't know why. Left or right, left or right. Left. And then just put your finger down until it comes to the spot. And the answer is, don't be stupid. As I said, it's a bit of a smart ass. So, is something good happening to you? No, it's not. I'm sorry. Something good isn't going to happen to you in the next day or so. So yeah, I like that bibliomancy. It's an interesting one. Check it out. Depending on the book, that has certainly got its own personality. Shakespeare would be good too. Any sort of plays would be good. Screenplays, that kind of thing. Now, the next one was another one that I got into very early, and this was also from my auntie, who I've talked about before. Talked about her in the introduction, who got me into Stuart Wilde and Alice Bailey and that kind of thing, and she got me into pendulums. And she was just doing it with a string and a ring. A string and a ring, poet, I don't even know it. But it's basically, the idea is that you can ask questions of the pendulum and it moves to answer. So you can have, like, clockwise is yes, or clockwise no, or up and down is yes, or side to side is no. You train it to whatever you want it to be. It's kind of, dowsing is another kind of similar thing. Now, it does work, but you will notice that if you like hold it, get something else to hold it, it doesn't work. So obviously your hand movements are coming into this play in some way. So it can be fairly accurate, but again, I got good into it, or well into it at one point, until I started finding that I was taking its word too much for granted and missing out on opportunities because it had told me no, So I mostly try to now use divination to find out information that I can, this is a good one, when you're starting off, or when you're trying to ask your pendulum stuff that you can verify really quickly, like, will my Amazon delivery come today? Will I get a phone call from John today? The things that you can, and if it says yes, write it down. And then if you didn't get the phone call today, you go miss, or if your Amazon order did arrive and the pendulum said it would, hit, and eventually see how accurate you will be. I would suggest here and now that you'll probably be about 60% accurate. Seems how it works. So, the runes are the last ones I wanted to come to, because the runes are probably the thing that influenced the fourth servants the most. Now, the runes are little sigils that now come as, little. You can get them in stone, you can get them in wood, like these are. And the idea is that you would, same as tarot or same as cards, you would, ask your question and pick some and throw it and see what answers you get. And there is, you know, each of them will give you a different kind of insight or energy that is. Why it's one of the bigger influence, it's probably more of an influence on 40 servants than tarot is because each of the symbols, while also being a divination tool, is also a sigil that you can use to activate that energy. Which to people who've been working with 40 servants, that sounds probably quite familiar. And that is the thing, it's that the double use of the runes I find brilliant, in that not only can you use it as kind of a divination tool to see what kind of energies are prevalent in your life, or in the, you know, like what is going on, or what is the energy, you know, in the situations. You can also then use those sigils or those runes to get more of that energy, or to banish that energy, or any of that kind of thing. So I really like that, and it seems to fit well with the idea then of servitors, of a deck, of the 40 servants. So yeah, I really like the runes. You should check out the runes. There's a lot of layering in them, and there is a lot of... People have very different ideas. No one really knows an awful lot of them, and you know what they actually did mean. And it's almost certainly they were never used as a divination system originally, depending on who you ask, and they were mostly used for magic uses. So that's kind of divination. I'm sure there's others, and there's people screaming at the screen going, oh, but you didn't say this. Yes, there's loads of different divinations. There's I Ching, there is clouds, you know, looking at the clouds and, you know, seeing. There's a great book by Tim Powers called Last Call, and he talks, there's a whole scene where they're going down the street and they're looking for someone, and it's looking for signs and things unusual to show them they're on the right path. And that can be quite useful, you know, just kind of going with how the world presents itself and kind of feeling your way through by, you know, seeing signs or strange things happen or unique things and just following that until you get what you want. I have a number, a lot of people have numbers that repeats in their life, and I would see that when I see that number, I know I'm on the right direction or on the right thing, or this is a good way to go and stuff like that. And that's more than 60% accurate. That's ridiculously accurate. So like, I'm skipping over loads of things, loads of different things, but just kind of wanted to give you an overall of what is divination. It's trying to find out stuff that you can't possibly know, or no one, you know, that isn't available to you by normal means, using some sort of system and accessing some sort of record or some sort of energy or some sort of thing that knows things. So that's divination. The next video is going to be on magic, and I'm going to talk about just about what it is and the different ideas behind magic, you know, the different, what people think it is, some different definitions, the different models, and by models I mean is why people think it works, and, you know, what is the force behind it, or what is the reason it works, and then go into kind of some basic ideas about how to use magic then or whatever. That might or may not, it depends on how it works, it may not be split up into a number of smaller videos, but we'll see how it goes. So, good people of the internet, and that is an introduction to divination. So be well until I talk to you all again.